Welcome back to the Irish Mags Show. It's episode 49. My name is Paul. I'll be your host for today. Still have a bit of a raspy voice, having been over at St. James's Park at the weekend, but we will power through as we always do. And this week, not only are we graced with the presence of the man, the myth, the legend that is Tev. Welcome in, Tev. How are you doing there? I'm also delighted to say that we are joined by one of the pillars of the Newcastle United community and a man whose excellent YouTube channel has amassed over 47,000 subscribers to date. Pretty much 1,000 subscribers for every episode we've done, Tev. Welcome to the Irish Mags Show, Rob, aka Rubenstein. Welcome.
Hello.
Good to have you here.
That was very kind of you. Thanks very much. I've been, don't know if it's the pillar of Newcastle YouTube, but I have been doing it for a little while now. So yeah, that's
you've
great.
earned
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, you've earned it.
Thank
Now,
you.
what we like to do is we like to give you a nice compliment, give you a lovely introduction, start up here, and then we're just going to bring it all
and
the
just
way
hit him down.
That's great.
Absolutely. And Rob, I just missed you at the weekend. I believe you bumped into Tev on the day of the match.
I did indeed.
I was about an hour away. I think I just missed you, lads, but I know you two have met before. But it's great to have you on the show, Rob. Not sure now. We'll unearth if you have had any beef or issues with any Irish in the past. This would be the place to get it all off your chest.
Well, as I say, I was messaging Tev because I was actually in Dublin a couple of weeks ago. So I was trying to track down where to go for the football, and in the end, I got outvoted, and the lads found somewhere to go regardless. But in fairness, that was a game that, to be fair, was probably a good job I didn't make because we lost against Brighton. So I was able to just cry into my lovely Guinness away from the rest of the fans. But yes, saw the guys in Wunderbar on Saturday, didn't I, Tev? So that was good fun.
Nice, all well behaved as always.
Oh, absolutely,
And then Tev and some of the lads who were on the day trip, they left, and it became very unwell behaved. I can tell you that much. There's only so much of that evening I'm willing to talk about on the internet, lads. I can just make that very clear. But we'll touch on some of it. I'd say there's still some shaky heads and bodies after that since. So we're going to have a chat about that match, of course. It's been a good week, all things considered. That first game against Chelsea feels like a long way away now, considering what's happened since. A lot of positivity, a lot of feeling good on a Monday. As Mondays go, it's been a better Monday in the Newcastle community. So we will be going through our own views on the match and our own experience of the day. We might also have a little chat about the next few weeks and months as well. That's Robin, keen to pick your brain. What do you think is going to happen in the next few weeks and months in terms of these results, the impact of the season, and just one little eye on that January transfer window? Because, like it or not, the year is moving quick. We're already in November, and that January transfer window is not that far away somehow. Wherever 2024 went, I do not know. But before we get to all of that, Tev, let's just put our eyes onto Rob here at the bottom of our screen. For those listening, you can obviously watch us on YouTube and see our lovely faces. But Rob, I think in case any of our listeners don't have a clue who you are, or haven't met you, or haven't seen any of your content and your videos, maybe if you could start just telling us a little bit about yourself, your origins as a fan, and I'd say particularly your origins of the channel itself, because there's a big history in that channel. I've obviously been subscribed myself for a long time, and there's some great content on there as well.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. Yes, I've been doing it for quite a while now. I started the YouTube channel the same year I got my season ticket. Which was when Rafa came in the championship. I actually. So yeah, is it 10 years ago, or it's close to 10 years? I think possibly.
It's probably not far away. Yeah, I'm trying to think
9 years maybe. So yeah, it has been going for quite a long time. To be fair, just for myself with the YouTube stuff, I was keen to get involved in making videos. Like that was an interest that I had. But in terms of football and Newcastle United, I've followed them ever since I was born, really. Parents both from Newcastle, didn't really ever question or have an option. I don't think it was just everyone. That was the team you were brought up with. The first ever game I went to was Peter Beardsley's testimonial. So I don't really remember it, but I'm pretty sure the school got given a selection of tickets to go. And that was the first match I went to at St. James's Park. Continued to follow the game, never really had a season ticket, but would go if my dad's friends couldn't go, or if there was a cup game normally, or a friendly, a chance to get in there. And then, as I say, I started the YouTube channel up. At first was doing kind of FIFA videos, football videos, but hadn't really found it. I guess was interested in content creation, but really didn't know what to make the content about, I suppose is probably the best way to explain it. What I think it was a friendly against Hellas Verona.
Jesus.
Yeah, a long time ago now. Yeah, I know it's probably the only team I remember as actually like the name of a team we played the friendly against. But that was the game where I thought, well, you know what, I've got tickets for it. Maybe I could do a little video at the stadium about the game. And I went from, getting 10 to 15 views on my FIFA or football related video to suddenly, 1,000 or a couple of hundred. Like it went from very modest numbers to suddenly quite a big. And I was like, oh, right. So clearly there's a few Newcastle fans out there who are keen on a bit of content. So throughout the year, I kind of popped in and out of a few games to try and then I got the season ticket and thought, oh, well, I may as well keep it going. So it was a lot different back then. I think these days, obviously you guys run the podcast, and it's a lot of off the pitch talk as well. It's all what's going on in the world of Newcastle. I mean, to be fair, back then people didn't want to talk about what was off the field because it was Mike Ashley, and people were very, very happy about it. So if anything, I probably avoided those conversations, but it was a lot more modest. It was kind of like one video a week about like a reaction to the game, and then continue doing it over the years. I think really, I've had more people subscribe in the last 3 years than I did in the previous 6 or 7. Basically, when the takeover hit, suddenly, the interest definitely rose, and thankfully I was kind of already making a few videos, and things kind of kept going from there. But even on a personal note, for me, it was certainly a much more fun going to the games in the last 3 years than it was ever previously.
Yeah, I mean, as you were speaking there, I was thinking, well, we've learned 2 things. Number one, Newcastle United are far bigger than FIFA, and that became very clear to Europe with the videos. So we are massive. Forget about this FIFA,
absolutely,
FC, whatever you want to call it. But also, you could easily kind of think, the viewership, the interest in speaking about Newcastle, in talking about it, listening about it, interacting about it, has just been because of the takeover, or and you'll start to get words like plastic and bandwagon thrown around, I'm sure, by every other fan base out there, some more than others. But I think it's a lot deeper than that. For those of us that have been around for a long time as Newcastle fans, we talk about this a lot, Rob, especially on this channel. We've been lonely, isolated Newcastle fans growing up in the north, south, east, and west of Ireland, surrounded by red kits of various forms, and are a lone child in a school playground in a Newcastle United kit is how most of us remember it. But for me, I think it's exactly, and I think for me it's more a case of, you kind of alluded to it there, who really wanted to be talking about Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley? Do you know who really wanted to be talking about kind of those darker days and 2 relegations and just everything that was going on with it? Whereas, yes, the takeover, and there's investment and there's different players, but it's more about the feel-good factor, the buzz, the efforts that have been made to reconnect the club with the fans, to get fans more included, more involved. And that extends to the stadium, to the ticketing, to, the playing squad, to just everything across all the channels. So I think it's a lot deeper than that. Yes, the interest has definitely increased over the last few years, but we had very good reason to not be in a very happy, good place.
Yeah, I think
again, it's crazy.
I just think the content has changed in itself as well, though. Like now things are so instant. Like back in the championship, like the 4G in town or whatever, or wherever you might try and upload your video, that just didn't exist. Like it just wasn't a thing. So it was get the bus home, and then get it uploaded on the computer, and then you'd edit it on the computer. Whereas now, if you've got the right setup on your phone and stuff, or if you've got a friend around the corner or a bar that's got Wi-Fi, there's a lot more options to have like that instant kind of push of content. Whereas once upon a time, I was sat at home at 2 a.m. still editing a video that I recorded at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and so like it was a lot a lot different to try and to put stuff out there. Whereas now, you could just be in the house, record a 10-minute video, and throw it online. So at one time, I think the way content was portrayed was a lot more like heavy editing, and like rather than doing a video for every player you signed, I would probably do one video for the whole transfer window to do a recap of the players who came in, the players who left. Whereas now, people want that, like, oh my God, Newcastle are signing a player. Like, it's not, we'll just wait till the end of the transfer window. I'll make a video about it then. It's like, no, let's and I think the word is enjoy as well. Like, people want to enjoy it now. So
yeah, I think that there's a want to do it, and there's also a demand to do it as well. I think people have grown to expect it, right?
Yeah, I think it's an urge for content as well. I think now more than ever, when people are leaving the stadium, they want that content now. So even you see the likes of TNT, Sky Sports, they're literally pushing content every 5 or 6 minutes,
yeah, absolutely,
of everything. So now it's not a case that if I push content, remember, you'd be like, oh, well, I push it at this time or that time. Now it's any time. You can push it any time, So I think fair play to you, because yourself, it's nearly a job outside of a job where you're like, okay, I need to do this now because everybody's leaving the stadium. So yeah, commend you.
You're very kind.
Yeah, and as well, I think it's not just there's only a certain amount of people that can go to the game. Like Tev and I, we were fortunate enough to get a ticket and travel over there at the weekend. But we don't get over every single weekend, especially coming over from Ireland. And I think the beauty of being able to create a lot of this instant content is, again, going back to the lonely Newcastle fans, or at least, the people who are watching it at home, who are, let's say, watching it at home, watching in a pub, or, traveling in between, they get to embrace it. They get to interact with fan channels, or at least share the experience. If there's a particular game or result or performance, you either want to talk about it, you want to kind of decide how you feel about it, and listening to, some of those instant reactions obviously definitely helps as well. Yes. So it's very therapeutic as well, even if it doesn't go that well on the day. So there's ups and downs, as we all know.
Yeah, it's certainly more fun to do when we win, I must say, than it is.
Absolutely, you nailed it. I mean, I was doing because Rob, we mentioned there before we hit the big red button that both of us do a little bit of podcasting with True Faith as well.
Yes,
and I was doing the instant reaction after that Arsenal game. So I met with Adam and Kyle right outside the Strawberry, across from on the Strawberry corner. And we were just buzzing because it was a good game, it was a good result, and we were just, happy podcast time, because it can easily go the other way. And it's a lot trickier to do a podcast, to look forward to it when, it's negative, or when it's critical, or when you're just a bit deflated. So long may that last. And as I said, it's been a good week, or a good 6 days really, with those two games back to back. But we're going to come to that match a bit more in a minute. Let's pry a bit more into the mind of Rob, Tev, shall we? In terms of his Newcastle origins. As you said, you mentioned your first game was Peter Beardsley's testimonial, Rob. So
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. We're not going to ask you to reveal your age live on the pod or on the internet. You can keep that to yourself. But to go back, I suppose, to the early days, is there any particular let's say highlight you would have had as a fan, whether that's growing up or even in the more recent times, like something that might stand out to you as a fan, and or even in terms of creating content, that jumps out as the highlight of your Newcastle fandom?
I was lucky enough to actually go see Kevin Keegan do a talk on Friday, so that was pretty cool. However, I must say that I was too young for the Keegan years, but it was like to see them live. But it was very interesting to hear a few stories from the day, not only when he was playing, but when he was manager too. So that was quite eye opening. But and obviously, you can't be brought up without the Ginola top and everything else. That's kind of what's very popular right now. That's like the new shirts that Newcastle are bringing out. They're bringing all of the old legends back to do that kind of stuff. But for me, it was more Bobby Robson era growing up. And I guess Shearer was the one, wasn't he? It's I used to quite like Robert more than anything, because we had the same name. But he was very, very good too.
Some left foot.
Yeah, some left foot, definitely.
So I'm just picturing a younger version of you walking around Newcastle and beyond, telling everyone to call you Robert instead of Robert.
Do you know who I am?
I remember the shirt from that season, and I think I was wanting to get Shearer on the back, and my mum was like, "Well, no, if you get it, you're going to have to get Robert on the back because at least that's your name." I was like, "Yeah," but I don't think I even got it in the end. But yeah, I guess it was those years. Even still now, I think it was always like a mixed bag, wasn't it? With Bobby Robson, obviously we had some good times, and it was like top four in Champions League. I remember my dad listening to the matches on like the radio and stuff of like the Champions League like pre-qualifiers because it wasn't even guaranteed that you would be in the Champions League. So I remember a lot of that. And I think the first game I went to outside of Peter Beardsley's testimonial. I should have really researched this before I come on. Do you remember Dan Edgar? He was a centre back for Newcastle quite a while ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was Manchester United, and he scored against them to make it 2-1 or 2-2.
Was it like a long range kind of a goal?
Yes, well, it was. I think he basically kicked it, like scuffed it, and it like rolled through the whole all the way from outside the 18-yard box into the bottom right hand corner. I should probably find out what year that was. That would be good.
Screamer.
He was Canadian. I think he was Canadian, wasn't he?
Yes, you're right. He was.
Yeah. That's a blast from the past now. I wasn't expecting a David Edgar reference when you were joining us this week.
This is it.
Glory days, those were now. Wow. I mean, he's just one of a long line of those kind of random players that maybe have just scored one random goal or one kind of important goal and then never really did anything else in this time. That's a hell of a memory to have.
I think it was possibly 2007. I'm reading here. I'm not
sure. Only. That's fine, Rob. It's only 17 years ago. Sure, who's going to
blast? I know. Yeah, should have a better memory.
Good grief! It's actually hard to believe how many years ago some of those things were.
Yeah.
And then, Rob, I suppose that's when you're kind of getting into it, you're experiencing the Bobby Robson era, and a lot of our listeners are a similar kind of generation where it started very well for those, let's say, because of the Bobby Robson era.
Yeah.
It's safe to say probably things went a bit downhill after the Bobby Robson year, quite quickly, in fact. And, we all remember the different managers that came in, different players that suddenly crossed the doors. Is there any particular low light for you throughout those times, or where you found it most challenging, or where you were at your lowest as a Newcastle fan? Because as much as we love talking about the happy days, we like to dwell on the sad ones as Newcastle fans together.
Yes, remember the sad to appreciate the happy or the now, certainly. Well, I think kind of getting a bit older. Obviously, there was the Pardew era with Cisse scoring the goals against Chelsea. So that was pretty cool. And then it was, I think, so it would have only been, not too long after that Pardew left. And it was really, as I said, I got my ticket when Rafa came in. So that was, I think that was probably when I went from like, not that I was ever like a casual fan. I always had the shirts. I always watched and wanted to be at Newcastle. But I think once I started going, and as well as you say rightly, when things aren't the greatest, it's not always the Whereas now I feel very, very like in it, if you know what I mean. I think when I got my season ticket, that was where I started to like pay a lot more attention to what's going on the day to day, rather than just be like, the matches at the weekend, do you want to go to the game? It started to become a more like, or what's going on Monday, what's happening on Tuesday, what do you think is going to happen? So that's when, and I guess that's kind of grew with the channel as well. When I was making the videos, you become more and more engrossed in kind of the club and the football. I think it was probably when Rafa left, within the next couple of years, things definitely got quite well, people use the word toxic, and they're probably not wrong. I think the better word would just kind of be disagreement among fans.
Yeah,
I think the pinnacle of it was when a lot of fans looked to boycott the Arsenal game. I think that's one that definitely stands out in my head as to what to do. Like, because it was hard. You've paid for your ticket. You want to support your team, but then also and around that time, I mean, I sit with two friends at the match, and I still sit with them now. Have done for the full time we've had a season ticket. Like, there was a stage where conversations were happening about like, do we want to pay for this again? Like, do we want to keep coming to this? I know a lot of fans did give up the ticket, and we certainly had those same chats between each other as to whether it was worth it anymore. And at that time, I've mentioned about going for the football, but I felt like we weren't going for the football anymore. We were going to get drunk, to have a laugh. If anything, and the reason you were going to the game was different. So I think that was a low moment. I think having to question myself as to whether I felt like I should go to the game or not was quite like oh God, like what has it become a little bit? Thankfully though, we did keep the ticket. And we did stick it out because I know they're very hard to get if you can get your hand on one now. So I'm glad we stuck with it. But yeah, I think that's an obvious one. I think for me doing the YouTube channel as well, people wanted to know what I was doing. So you go to the game, Rob, and it's like I didn't start the channel to have like political views on whether you should boycott the football or not. It was a channel made to enjoy Newcastle United, and then all of a sudden I'm thrown into this place where it's like, what the hell are you doing? So yes, that was a low moment, but on the other side, it certainly turned out better.
Did you have faith?
Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
During those times, did you have faith, or was it just kind of? Did you see the light?
I don't know. I think I did. I think that's what kills you in the end, isn't it? Having like the hope. I think is probably the word. It's like the hope that it will be okay. I think we knew that as much as the takeover was never looking like it was going to happen, that there seemed to be like this idea that it would sell it eventually. And I mean, that was just the hope, wasn't it? That you would stick it out. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone could have predicted in that season where a lot of people got rid of their season tickets, and at one stage Newcastle were giving away free half-season tickets just to try and get people in the stadium. Like, I don't think at that moment anybody would have believed that just a few years down the line you would never get a ticket again. So I think I don't blame the people who sold them. I think more than anything, as I say, we were just going to hang out with my pals, and I was like, well, it's like a date in the diary every 2 weeks to go and have a bit of fun regardless of the football. So that was why so that's I guess to answer your question, I think I always hoped that it would get better. Did I believe it would? I don't know. I think I was just riding the drunk wave basically every weekend and just trying to make the most of it.
Like us.
That just sounds like you're Irish.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like now, though, when you go to the game, like I went to the game for the Arsenal game, and I had a couple of pints. But if I actually wanted to see the football for a change, because I was like, let's enjoy it, not be blacked out in the stands, wishing it would be over.
Yeah, it's probably the one thing an early kickoff really does guarantee is you don't have enough time. Even though we did see a large number of Irish mags traveling over on its 7:30 a.m. flight. So needless to say, there was a few pints had at 6 a.m. in the airport, Tev.
You've got to make the most of it on a trip like that.
I can't confirm whether that was me or Tev, but we were there anyway. Sure.
We were there in spirit.
In spirit, yeah. Having gotten on a bus at 3 a.m, I can confirm I was definitely there in spirit, and that's about all.
Wow,
I was there in spirit.
Yes, yeah.
A long day for sure. It doesn't get talked about a whole lot, that the fact that there are a lot of people who sadly did give up their season tickets and who definitely would regret that now. But at the same time, this is not the only club this would have happened to. And I think, when things are that bad, and guys, as much as we say it's hard to believe that just a couple of seasons later we're playing in the Champions League, and as Rob said, you just can't get your hands on a ticket now. It's not that long before all that we were playing in the Championship, and we did it twice in 10 years. For a club the size of Newcastle, and again, I just don't think, particularly fans of other clubs, other fan bases probably just don't even appreciate it. To have been relegated not once but twice for a club the size of Newcastle, thinking about the Kevin Keegan days, thinking about the Bobby Robson days. I think some teams like Everton and fans of Everton should be consider themselves very lucky that they somehow still haven't been relegated, because those are the times where you do have to question a lot. And in particular, what option did fans have to voice their concern, to show their objection to how the club is being ran? only to stop going or to give up your ticket, because what else did we have? It was the Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley show, and as we said, yeah, it just wasn't the way to run a football club.
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly say as well, it was. There was a lot of fans who really cares, lots of protests, lots of banners, and I do think that did play a part. Like if fans had have that's the thing. If fans had have just sat quietly and ate their crap football every week, then who knows? Maybe Ashley would have just sat there and took his money. So I think the fans doing that, giving up tickets, and so I definitely respect the reasons why people did it. And that's the thing, you can't hold yourself for a decision at the time that you made that was right for you as well. So
got to stick to the guns. Yeah,
absolutely.
Where were you on that fateful day in October 2021, Rob? The what do we call it? The hashtag Cans Day, the Keith Downey Day.
That was a good day. Because I think by that point we kind of knew it was happening, but the question was when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And my missus had a physio appointment, so I think it was I can't remember, it was like a Thursday or whatever. I think it was the day before. Cans Day. I think it was. I think it was that day. And she was like, and I was like, basically, the ticket was going to get announced any minute. I need to get ready to go to the stadium. And she was like, well, if you don't give me a lift to physio today, then I need to go tomorrow. So I was like, so now you're trying to decide, is it going to happen today? It's not going to. I was like, look, get in the car. We'll go now. So then it's just done. So yeah, I was sat in the car park when it came on the radio that Newcastle had the takeover. I was like, what the? So I drove home, dropped her off, grabbed the 2 cans of Coors or whatever the hell was in the fridge, shoved them in my coat pocket, and then ran straight up to St. James's Park. And thankfully a friend of mine had already got there, gone to Tesco's and bought a crepe. So yeah, I stood outside the stadium all night, having a fair few drinks. But that was really good. I actually bumped into a friend from school who I hadn't seen in quite a long time, and now I still go to the game with him every week as well. So that was an extra bonus, seeing him and his dad there, and now we went to Wembley together and all sorts. So it's been good.
It's been a hell of a couple of years since, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
You're talking Champions League and Cup finals and top 4 and some incredible, some of the results, some of the games. You're looking at the 6-1 against Tottenham, the 4-1 against PSG, the 8-0 against Sheffield United. It's just incredible to see what's happened in a few years. And I wasn't planning to even ask you this, Rob, but just seeing as we are talking about that recent kind of last 2-3 years, where do you stand on what has been a roller coaster debate in the last couple of weeks? Is Eddie Howe the man to kind of take us forward? Because I think, as usual, when the going gets tough with a couple of defeats, people start to really quickly question it. And then, in the space of 6 days, we beat Chelsea in the cup, we beat Arsenal in the league. And I would imagine a lot of people are like, yeah, no, Eddie's got this.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I had someone ask this to me just this morning. So there you go. I've got my answer prepared for you. But I think the question was, what happens now? I think if you'd asked me, I think like most fans, Eddie Howe saved us from relegation, took us to Champions League. Any time around there, if you said to me like, what do you think? I would say Eddie Howe forever. Never Eddie Howe never get rid of Eddie Howe. Keep him forever. It's always going to be great.
Yeah,
I definitely still think Eddie's the right man for us right now. And I certainly don't think, Manchester United bringing in a manager that, if I'm honest, I've never heard of before. Not to say that he's a bad manager. I'm sure he'll do all right there, or who knows. But for me, if you gave me a list of managers currently available, I very much doubt there'd be somebody on there that I would want more than Eddie Howe. So I'm not saying that I want Eddie Howe out. I think he's the right man, certainly right now. And I would love it if he could be the right man to take us back to Wembley again this season, to get us Champions League again soon. But I think what I would say is that my blind kind of following or love for Eddie Howe that I had for the first few years probably isn't the same now. I think if you came to me with a reasonable or a an alternative. At one stage, I wouldn't even consider it. I think now I probably would listen to alternatives. As I say, not to say that I would ever say yes to that alternative. Maybe Eddie Howe really is the man and can be for however many years. But I just think my blind following of Eddie Howe was, is probably not quite as strong as it was.
And I suppose it's fair because, fair in the sense of the days of long-term managers probably just aren't as common anymore. Now, I'm still very much in the Eddie Howe camp as well. I think most of us are. And I will continuously fall back on the same things. Who would get more out of the squad that he has right now? It would be a question I would find hard to answer. And not just that, but the fact that I was doing some research on this. Newcastle have like the highest amount of players still in their squad from 5 years ago than any other team in the Premier League. It was 8 or 9. Like, and he's been able to squeeze every last drop of football and increase how much value he's getting out of the Sean Longstaff, the Fabian Schär, Miguel Almiron. Dubravka was our goalkeeper for most of last season. Like Joe Lynch, like these are all players he's inherited, but are all players that were there 5 seasons ago, which is not that long after we returned to the Premier League. By contrast, a team like Chelsea, no surprises, no players in their squad.
Wow.
Currently. We're in the squad 5 years ago. Reece James was still in the academy. I think I read the Kepa was there, but he's now out on loan. So it just shows you, what Eddie Howe is still. Yes, we've spent money. We've brought in some elite players, but he's still having to make do with a big bunch of players that he didn't sign, and that were here at a point where we were not that good.
Yeah. But a lot of people talk about Eddie Howe as the manager, but not as the coach as well. Like in terms of coaching, look at the players that he has. I don't know if you've seen Lewis Hall's interview for TNT. He was literally praising Eddie Howe, like, thank you so much for helping me in terms of my defensive duties, etc. The likes of Joe Linton, Murphy, Isak, Bruno, the list goes on, Dan Burn, Schär, etc. He's coached them to a higher level, where other teams, cough ones that are trying to get a manager from Sporting Lisbon, are trying to just fuel new players every single season, where we actually haven't spent the war chest that we have, and we're still getting the best out of players. So, as a coach, he's tops.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think that's where you look at a manager like Ten Hag, and you could. I find it hard to name any player that he actually improved during his time there. Yes, some players came through, your Garnachos or your Kobe Mainus, but these are players I think would have done well under any manager. And I go so far as to say that a lot of the players that were already there that he signed actually have gotten worse. You look at Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
You look at Anthony. So that's where I think Eddie Howe, as you said, Tev, the coach, Eddie Howe, the coach. For me, I don't think there'd be many other managers or coaches out there that would be getting as much as they have out of this squad of players. But like to Rob's point, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the coming years as we continue to grow and we're able to flex our financial muscles. And likewise, do managers stay around that long? I think Eddie Howe said that's what he was brought in to be, or is to come in and lead this project for the long run. Gone are the days where we were throwing out 8-year contracts. The less said about that, the better. But it'll be interesting to see how long he actually does stay around, as well as Jason Tindall, because we don't want Jason Tindall going anywhere.
No, I know he's got his had his fresh tracksuit on at the game at the weekends, and what is it? Fresh trainers and fresh tracksuit for every game.
He's a fresh. I mean, I had to laugh. Was it the game against Chelsea, the second one? I think you could see himself and Eddie Howe in the camera shot, and Eddie Howe had 3 layers on. He definitely had his t-shirt and his Newcastle top, and then his big long kind of overcoat, and Tyndall was standing beside him in a t-shirt. Just still a cool kind of 35 degrees from the sunbed earlier that day.
Yes.
He's a Martin dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, last question on you, Rob, then, before we might actually dive into that game as well, specifically with Arsenal. But in terms of your own content, especially, and for your own channel, I'd love to hear, is there any particular highlights? Is there any particular videos or interviews or productions that you were involved in that really stand out in terms of, I'm really proud of that. That was really great, or just really kind of a highlight, great memory of actually having the opportunity to do it. And then I'm going to ask you about a helicopter.
Yes. Well, YouTube's a funny one, and our content creation can be, because I sometimes it is a bit of a like a roll of a dice sometimes, that you can make a video and sometimes you could spend ages on it and be like really proud of it, and here it is, and you upload it, and then nobody watches it, and you're like, and then
that's us every week, Rob.
Yeah,
no,
shoot the look.
No, we're kidding.
And then sometimes, you know, you can make a video off the cuff with little planning, and for whatever reason, whether the conversation topic or if it just hits, you know, the magical algorithm at the right time of day or whatever, and it can like shoot through the roof. So I think, to be fair, I think a lot of because my channel is about Newcastle United, I think my highlights on the channel generally follow the run of what Newcastle have done. I mean, making videos about losing in the championship, you know, they aren't on the highlight reel. Beating PSG and, you know, just being in that moment and the awe of it, and like that, you know, I went without realizing it, drove along the quayside the morning of the PSG game, and the bus was outside and the players were coming out. I was like, right, park the car, get out, and run over there. Like, who can we get a shot of? And that was a really fun video. And then Wembley again, just like effortless. Just people want to be involved. People want to be in the video. People want to talk about Newcastle. That's like the fun of it. I think a lot of my YouTube really. And I think probably, I know, because Tev said it earlier, you know, doing it alongside like working and everything else. I think the part of the big enjoyment and the part of, like, you know, keeping it going is that it is just kind of, people are just watching what I'm up to anyway. Like there isn't a real, I don't have a giant list of videos that I wanted. Sometimes I think maybe I should try and devote more time to kind of specific videos. Like, what about this? What about that? But generally speaking, a lot of what I do is kind of like, I'm going to the final, so I'll bring my camera along and just kind of just enjoy it for what it is, and hope that others do too. So yeah, and I think that keeps the pressure off it a little bit as well. I'm not pressuring myself to be like, right, on Friday you have to upload this video. It's just like, well, I'm at the game on Saturday, so I'll do something while I'm there. Or so I think that helps, you know, keep it a hobby. Like it is just a bit of fun that I started a while ago and kept it going. I think, funnily enough, some of the videos that have done the best on the channel are in fact not even Newcastle United related, because I went down to London. I can't remember if it was for work or it may have been a birthday party or something. And the Spurs stadium had just opened, so I was like, oh well, you know what? While I'm here, I'll go in and do a tour. And that video now sits on, I think, 800,000 views. So yeah, that was that. Once again, like, I didn't go down there thinking I'm gonna the master plan. I thought, yeah, I'll do a few videos of, but obviously it was a brand new stadium and a lot of people hadn't seen it. So yeah, and that was when YouTube worked a little bit differently as well, because nowadays the way it kind of works is what kind of content you do is what you're suggested for, if you know what I mean. Whereas back then it was a bit more of a mixed bag. It mattered less of what kind of content you created. It was just more, was it interesting? So I've done a few stadium tours off the back of that. I did a St. James's Park one. I think that's on, you know, 300,000. I did a Chelsea one, which got close to half a million as well. So yeah, funnily enough, the highest views videos on my channel are random days out at other people's stadiums. So there you go.
Living rent free in the Spurs fans' head.
Yes, that's
love that. And I have to ask you about the helicopter. That was one of the videos I first saw when I subscribed to your channel, all the way back when. But I think you did it to celebrate. Was it hitting 40,000?
Yes, it was
on YouTube.
It was a milestone. I can't remember which one, but yes, it was.
And did you buy the helicopter? Did you rent the helicopter? Was it Amanda's helicopter?
Yeah, Murdoch and Amanda was sat in the back, and I was flying it.
That's exactly what I was.
It was my missus who booked it, and I think it was a birthday or a Christmas present, and it just so happened to be around the time that I was coming close to a YouTube subscriber milestone. So I thought, you know what, let's use it as a chance to do something a little bit different. So it was I think if anyone is interested, I mean, it was fantastic. I would definitely recommend it. It flew from Newcastle Airport, or just along the road from Newcastle Airport. You jump in, They have a few different ones. I think they have ones that possibly go further out to the coast, and but there was one specifically to fly over St. James's Park. So jumped in, got helicopters. It's a weird vehicle to be in, if you call it a vehicle. It was very strange. Like, it feels like you have no weight, like you just are kind of floating in the air. Like an aeroplane where you've got like tangible stuff to, like, you can hold onto your seat, you can like see other seats around you, like looking out of a helicopter, you are just in a bubble. It flew up, went towards Gateshead, came back and swooped right down over St. James's Park. So got a few photos, a few videos, and definitely want to remember.
That's class. Great way to celebrate the milestone as well. And listeners, if you haven't already, get yourselves over to Rob's channel. It's Rubenstein on YouTube and on Twitter and all over the place. And who knows, a couple of thousand more followers will be hitting the 50K milestone. Maybe we'll get it. Maybe we'll get him skydiving into the pitch.
Get him a caravan.
Yeah,
get him a caravan. You can tour around Ireland in a caravan. That's as good a way to celebrate as any.
Dublin to Cork.
Solid journey, that one. Rob, thanks for answering all those questions. That was great to actually get an insight. We love hearing all the origin stories, and every time we have guests on the show, we want to pick their brain and kind of hear some of their memories, because it's a lot of shared experiences, but a lot of unique experiences as well. So it's always really, really cool as well to experience. Okay, lads, we have to talk about the weekend. We just have to talk about the weekend, not about the drinking or the Wonder Bar, but of course, Newcastle 1, Arsenal 0, and I watched that goal probably 25 times since Saturday, even though I was in the Gallagate when it was scored, and it was scored in that end. And I suppose we could probably start there. We don't want to go into too much detail probably in terms of all the lineups and all the nuances, but I think overall, bar the Tonali omission, which was causing the most kind of concern and discourse before the game, it's fair to say I think Eddie Howe got his tactics fairly spot on, his match selection, his first 11, and some of the individual performances. I think too, man, across the pitch, an incredibly strong team performance, but a couple of standout ones as well. Rob, for you, I suppose particular highlights. Obviously, there was that goal and what I've been calling a peach of a cross from Anthony Gordon. But I suppose looking at the game overall, like, what stood out for you, Rob, in terms of team performance and individual performance?
Yeah, it was a fantastic goal, and it was just Eddie Howe. Like, I was very happy with it. Looking at Joe Linton and Willock on the left hand side doing what they do, I think Eddie Howe, has always said that, everyone keeps saying it, the intensity is our identity, and it hasn't been really this season. And it's almost funny to say it at this point because it's just like being so overused, but it was true. Like that was what we were. It was a team that was not necessarily that gifted technically, but what we could do was chase teams into the ground and make it hard for them. I think, in fairness, like the Chelsea game midweek and the Arsenal game, although they are very good teams, I would say that, like, it suited what we wanted, really. Like, of anything, we struggle to kind of break down the low block because we lack a bit of creativity. But when we take on an Arsenal side who we actually expect to probably have more of the ball, we aren't challenging ourselves to say how much better can we be at them than football. We were saying, how much faster can we run, how much harder can we make it for them, and that is Eddie Howe, and that is what he's kind of built us up over the last few years. And it was great to see us go out and do it again. So yes, I am happy. How can a man sit here after beating Chelsea and Arsenal and not be happy? I'm very happy. My only caveat is that, has it taken us 3 years to work out that our best left winger is still Joe Linton and Willock? And has it like, why is it that we've just remembered that we need to be like, we need to chase the ball again? So I'm hoping this is like a bit of like a light bulb moment for Eddie Howe. Like, oh yeah, we haven't been doing these things, and when we do them, it really works. So yeah, I'm very happy with those performances. I think. The thing is that any criticism that Eddie had for previous games this season wasn't because, that game we were bad. There was a big reaction after the Chelsea game. And that's like I would argue that's slightly unfair because Chelsea are good and have Cole Palmer, who was great on the day. But it wasn't anger at losing to Chelsea, or it was frustration around the fact that we haven't been doing those things that we did do against Arsenal. So yes, I'm happy if we can do it again, this weekend against Nottingham Forest, isn't it?
Yeah, no, Forest away.
Yeah, Forest. If we can go and do that again this weekend and really show that we're kind of back to where we want to be, that would be great.
And just hope that there's no Chris Wood goal fest.
Oh God, yeah.
Wood Aldino.
That's just the last thing we need. No, I agree. Your question there, Rob, of like how have we just fallen back to the best option on the left is that Willock-Joe Linton combination. But I think what it did kind of give us is just a bit more structure when we've been kind of pushing the Gordon and or Barnes kind of agenda. They're excellent players, incredibly creative, incredibly attacking. But I think at times we end up kind of a bit stretched or with gaps, either going forward or even coming back. And I think when you bring in when you put Joe Linton and Willock in there, they're a little bit more controlled, defined, measured, I suppose, in terms of how they're operating. And I just found that like we were doing a lot of simple things better. It wasn't about trying to make incredibly crazy smart runs. It was just about being in the right place and creating problems for an opposition fullback by, when Joe Linton was cutting inside, Joe Willock was taking his place and vice versa. And it was just smart play. I just think it was a bit more controlled, defined, and strategic. And likewise with somebody like Longstaff in there, who of course gets his criticism and has had it on this podcast before. But when he does what he does best, which is playing that really defined role, and he added to it a lot of really good tackles, some really good position play. And the highlight for me was that he didn't fall over for, I think, the whole game. And Sean Longstaff quite often likes to fall over. So, again, small wins. But overall, it just all culminated in a really strong performance. And Tev, for yourself, we were in St. James's Park.
Yeah.
When you're there, and you can see the entire pitch for the entire 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You can see kind of what's going on across the pitch, across the 11. What stood out for you, particularly like individual performances? I think the fullbacks have had a lot of praise.
Yeah.
Was there anything else for you that you wanted to call out?
I think just going back to what we were used to in terms of distances, I think everybody to a T knew what they were doing. So from the midfield, we know that Shara and Byrne don't have as much pace. And you can see Will Tonali coming in, etc. We did try play different past kind of few weeks, few months. So just going back to what we knew. But in fairness, with the Willock and Joe Linton pivot, Arsenal hadn't a clue. They hadn't a clue what was happening. Going out to Saka as well. Lewis Hall, man of the match. Yeah. Martinelli didn't get stiff either. But we were doing what we were used to doing. So we were doubling up in terms of Saka and Martinelli. The distances were fantastic. And we were breaking at the right times as well. So I know we talk about Gordon on the left and the right and Barnes, etc. But really and truly, when we got Champions League, it was about having a system that worked. It wasn't about playing the players where they wanted to play. So again, there was a bit of outrage when Tonali wasn't starting, but you could see straight away Bruno plays well when he has players around him. When Bruno's running from CDM and there's no Sean Longstaff, you can see the problems where Sean Longstaff would sit. So I think we just did what we were used to doing. And I take Rob's point as well in terms of, did it take 3 years to find out, Joe Linton on the left? But is that a thing where we're coming off a Champions League and Howe wants to evolve and says, oh, look, I want to play Tonali and Bruno? Because at the end of the day, Howe's great, but we are going to make mistakes. We are going to say, oh, I want Tonali and Bruno. And then after a few games, be like, oh, crap, I didn't realize we have 2 8s. So sometimes a Sean Longstaff is great because he's unselfish and he allows other players to flourish. So, Chelsea, consistency is a big thing in Newcastle. Again, Chelsea is great. Arsenal is great. We have to go to Forest, though, and get results. We have to beat West Ham at home, because again, to them, this season's competitive and we need to still remain competitive. We don't want the seasons where we're winning against the good teams and then losing 1-0 to all the teams in the lower table. So I think it's about consistency,
Yeah, and you'd hope that, Eddie Howe now has a kind of quite a big squad to choose from. He has selection headaches, which are always a good thing, competition pushing players on. But ultimately, just starting to really get a bit more defined on these roles. I was baffled, and it's not that long ago. It was just over a week ago that Cole Palmer was just, yes, he's a phenomenal player, but we kind of made it very easy for him to be a phenomenal player because we just left him by himself. We just let him do whatever he wanted. You know, whereas we need to start closing these gaps. We need to sacrifice the creativity of a player in order to negate the opposition where it's needed, and so on. So just, I think just getting a bit more defined strategically, you know, targeting what are obvious strengths and not just kind of relying on our intensity and relying on breaking on the counter and all those lovely things. But an incredible defensive performance as well.
I was going to add, because I think it was Utev made a great point there about kind of, you know, I can't remember what word you used now, but it was like the idea that we were that was us, and that intensity was us. Part of me wonders, you know, with the switch to kind of Gordon and Barnes and Tonali coming in, has Eddie Howe looked at it and gone, you know what, let's not just be the, because we've lost a little bit of our kind of like, you know, like bad lads attitude, you know, wasting time, Nick Pope taking forever at exactly 75 minutes every game, and that kind of went away. And you know, I wonder, has it just fell off? And people, I don't think it's just people just forgot to stop to do it. I think Eddie Howe has gone, you know, we've got better players now. Let's play better football. And unfortunately, it hasn't quite fitted. Is this Newcastle? I don't want to say admitting to the fact that maybe we're just not quite there yet to match some of these teams, like football wise, but certainly what we can do. But why can't we do both? You know, why can't we do both? Why can't we have the intensity and also play nice football at the same time? It seems to be a bit of a trade-off at the moment. Like I'd love to kind of get to a place where we've got Isak, we've got Gordon, they're playing lovely football, but Tonali and Joe Linton can still, you know, take a few chunks out of a few players along the way. So I think there's definitely a team in there. I don't think any Newcastle fan doubts that. It's just, you know, let's do what we did in the last 2 games, you know, every game, not just when we fancy it.
Of course, consistency. That's all we need.
That's it.
And look, I suppose the reality of it is we're only about 10 games into a new season. It feels longer almost, but you know, this is probably the first back-to-back couple of months where Eddie Howe has had a relatively, you know, healthy squad to choose from. And it's nice to think that we're starting to hit a bit of stride, starting to answer questions that needed answering, and still maybe can bring back the likes of Wilson if he'll ever play again, or bring back Sven Botman and bring back Kieran Trippier, because this will, you know, we want the more games we play, you'd like to think with a healthier squad and a bigger squad, the more we can start to have that kind of synergy and that ability to be intense when we need to be intense, break down a low block when we need to. Because I agree with you, Rob. I think we do struggle against a Wolves or a Bournemouth or whoever it is that kind of sits back and is happy to absorb pressure. Whereas I think we do quite well when there's teams who come against us with a big high line. I've said it before. Tottenham is a prime example. We'll continue to play that high line, and we'll continue to punish them for it every time they come and visit. So
hope so.
I think I'm intrigued to see what the next few weeks and months hold. And just quickly on that then, before we wrap up, Rob, as I mentioned, on the day of recording, we're at the first week in November, less than 2 months until that January transfer window. I suppose it's only been a week. We've had 2 decent results, one in the league, one in the cup. We're in another cup quarter final, potentially a third semi-final in 4 years, I think. Is that what we've said? Has this changed how you would feel about January? So thinking about January transfer window, assuming there's some cash to spend, you'd like to think there is, because we apparently had it when we were trying to get a certain defender in.
Yes.
Has this made any impact on how you feel about January? What you hope to happen versus what you might expect to happen in January, if anything happens at all?
Yeah, the thing was, in the summer, I think it was clear that we needed to bring in some reinforcements. I think what hurt us more than us not bringing a, because that's the thing, when we've just spoke about it there. You know, when we've got a fighting fit first 11, we've got a fantastic squad. But then you look at the game against Chelsea when they brought on, you know, Fernandes and Mudryk with however much money, and we brought on, you know, no disrespect to them, but Longstaff and Murphy, and that's just the difference of where, like, Chelsea are 3 points ahead of us in the league right now. You know, and that's the thing, we're only 3 points off, you know, 4th place, so we really are still in it. There's a lot of tight teams around there. You know, sometimes the difference can just be what's available you on the day. It's hard to sit here now on the 4th of November and really, you know, give it a full diagnosis, because come the 1st of January, we could be in a totally different situation with who's available, who's playing well, who's not. I think unfortunately, the obvious position you look at is the right wing position. And that was the position we spent, 3 months looking at in the summer and didn't do anything. As much as anything else for us, I think it was clearly a summer of just, issues. Amanda Staveley going, Dan Ash was all over the shop. Paul Mitchell's only been in 3 minutes. Like, I think all of that, and Eddie Howe said it. Eddie Howe said the players have been unsettled. There was the chance that a player could leave. I think it was possibly as much as important as anything else to just bring somebody in, just to like fill the room with a bit of confidence. Eddie Howe said that he always likes to bring at least one player in every window with the idea that it just galvanizes, boosts spirit. And we did make signings. Asula looked actually decent for the 30 minutes he played the other day, and we brought like 7 goalkeepers. But like, I just think if we could have just had that signing just to get the crowd going, it gets the players going. And I think as much as we could possibly sit here and say like this position would be great or that position, I think a striker would be good, right winger would be good. Do I think Newcastle are going to sign 3 or 4 players in the January window? Probably not, because it's a hard window. But I would go as far to say is that I think it is important that we do something, that we bring a player in that will like have Isak and Bruno look around and go, oh my God, like we've brought someone in who can take us just that next step further to competing for those European spots. So and I think right winger or striker would probably be the position for that. Come January, it'd be great if Sven Botman was back and potentially close to joining the squad. Look at Lewis Miley in the midfield as well. If he comes back, all of a sudden that's an extra midfielder. What we don't really have in waiting is, unless you include Callum Wilson, a striker or a winger. So yes, I would love to see us go and splash a bit of cash this January. That would get everyone going, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. There's the positional need for sure. I think we are lacking quality, and if we do end up getting to, let's say, a semi-final of the Carabao Cup, we've got FA Cup to come. Of course, we don't have Europe, but we're going to need that quality, because ultimately, when you get to the latter stages of these competitions, who are you going to play? Who are you going to face? It's going to be Man City. It's going to be Liverpool. It's going to be Arsenal. It's going to be big teams who have these players. Maybe not Man City because they're knocked out of the Carabao Cup, and that's tragic. But you get my drift. And Rob, I hadn't really thought about it as much, but the signal it would send as well to the other players, to the Brunos and Isaks, that we're serious here, because I think collectively everyone's looking at that transfer window in the summer and thinking it was a disappointment, and some would go so far as to say a bit shambolic on the grand scheme of things. Okay, good to hear. Tev, for yourself, really quickly, how are you feeling about the next few weeks and months? What do you think we'll see? Do you think this has been the catalyst that particular week, or do you think we still have work to do in terms of getting that consistency?
I think it is. I think Eddie's kind of tinkering in terms of what our best team is in terms of how we play. So you can see the games that we were kind of winning at the start of the season. We weren't playing too good, but we were kind of fluking and kind of winning. But then obviously when we were losing, we were playing well. So it kind of goes to what summer transfer window was, like what type of players we want for what type of team we're going to play. So again, Arsenal and Chelsea were great, but we had Dan Burn and Shah kind of at the edge of and kind of the likes of Kraft at the edge of the box, where I think Eddie wants to kind of change it up. And that's why you wanted probably Gay to kind of have the defense at the halfway line. But you can't have both. You need to understand what we are, and probably we need to kind of stick to our guns. So again, for the likes of Forest away, for the likes of West Ham at home, we should be having a defined kind of team that we play, that we know what the system is, we know what players to bring on, etc., how to kind of be kind of a low block, etc. But it has to start now. Like in December, I'm looking at potentially we have a quarterfinal, we have Liverpool at home, we have Ipswich away, Aston Villa on the 26th on St. Stephen's Day, as we call it, Boxing Day in the UK. And then also we have Manchester United away at the 29th. So I agree with Rob that actually we need to actually look where we're at kind of in December, because that will actually dictate really how hard we press in January. Because again, a loss here and there against Villa at home, a loss at Manchester United away, then it looks like panic stations. But I think the likes of Crystal Palace, the likes of West Ham and Forest away. If we come out there with kind of 2 wins, and well, really 3 wins or 2 wins and a draw, etc., that's getting it back. You know, we're just getting it back. But I think for us, we just need to remain consistent and do what we do well. You know, like this is not a time to be tinkering because again, like 1 or 2 losses, etc. This league is so competitive this season. You know, Chris Woodaldinho is playing out of his skin. Like, you know, it's not an easy league, you know, so tinker, but be careful, you know, because again, like we don't have points to spare.
Yeah, and every point counts. Yeah. And as we've seen in just this last 7 days, an awful lot can happen in a week for both good and bad. So I think we really need to focus on just grinding out results and doing what we're really good at. And I mean, if that means, unfortunately, you have to have a 45 million winger on the bench alongside a 55 million Italian international centre midfielder occasionally, we might just have to deal with that for the time being, because points at the end of the day are all that we need, and the result is most important. Lads, Tev, Rob, I have to say thank you very much to both of you for joining us this week on the Irish Mags Show. And Rob, of course, just again, in case somehow any of our Irish Mags listeners do not know where you are and where to find you, as I always say, without giving away your postcode and your exact location, where can people find you?
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they would like to see more, including some of those stadium tours or helicopter tours or all of the vast amount of content on your channel?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's Rubenstein on YouTube, ROOBENSTEIN. I've got Instagram, I've got Twitter. I think I do have TikTok, but it is YouTube is the one that I post my content on. So yeah, thank you guys for having me. I do appreciate it. It's been a good chat. I think I came on at the right time as well. You know, of all season, the straight after 2 great wins is not bad going either. So it's a good time.
A good time. We're all in great
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and great to have you on. As I said, we know you're an enthusiast of all things Ireland, and we also are very aware that you're fond of a Guinness as well every now and again.
Yes, we know. I had far too many the other week when I was in Dublin for a stag do. It was fun. It was a fantastic weekend, I must say. I would actually go as far to say I think it's often when you go on a lad's holiday, it's not often on the last day people want to stay. I think by that point everyone's ready for bed and a bit of TLC. People didn't want to go home. We were keen to stay another day. So yeah, that's a big up to the time we spent in Ireland, definitely.
Absolutely. And next time you're over, we'll have you over in the Bleecker Street Bar in Dublin or in any of our other kind of meetup locations around the country. Yeah. Tev, I believe we're going to have another meetup at the weekend as well for the Forest game.
Yeah, so we have 2. Yeah, so we have one in the Bleeckers, our home, our HQ, and we also have one in Sligo. So I think this year in terms of meetups, Rob, we have pubs all across Ireland. So we've done meetups in Limerick, Galway, Cork, Belfast, the whole lot. So there's a huge constituency of Newcastle fans, Irish Newcastle fans, and Geordies that live here as well. So every week, even though we travel to games, we always have Geordies in some pub. Drinking away.
Drinking away and behaving as always. And as usual, everyone, check out theirishmags.com for all of the latest information about meetups. We'll also have photographs up there from all the meetups, and of course the Irish Mags on tour at the weekend. We'll be getting all those photos uploaded as well, so make sure you get them sent in to myself or Tev or Alan or whoever. As usual, we will be back next week for more Irish Magnus. So until then, we shall just say, away the lads, Slán, Guffall, and we should see you all very soon. Rob, Tev, take care, guys.
Cheers, guys. See you later.